corner of your main Onshape page, there's a public option. You should click on that, and in the public search option, you should search up just CAD with me, like with all caps, CAD, and then W/ and then all caps me, and it should be the first one that shows up.
People can put a thumbs up or a green check whenever you've gotten it, so we know you've caught up.
Yeah.
Once you found it, you should make a copy of it into your own workspace.
Yeah, I forgot to say that too. Yeah, copy it. They should copy the whole document, right, Mr. Tobis?
That works. You want to show them how to do that?
Yeah, sure. So let me just get out of here real quick. I'll just go into my documents. So public, and then look up CAD with me, hit enter, and then in your search results. So this is the first one here, right here. And then you click on it, or you can right click, and then you hit copy workspace. And then it'll give you right here an option to rename it, or it could just be the name / copy, and you hit OK. And then Onshape will automatically create an entire copy of the workspace with everything on it, all parts and assemblies and imports. By the way, this is what the robot should look like at the end, but this is obviously done over multiple sessions. Today we'll probably be focusing mostly on putting on the other set of Omni wheels and the other base sidebar on the other side, and these two back wheels right here with the motor. Should I get started, Mr. Tobis, or should we wait a little longer?
Go ahead and go. People can join when they get there.
All right. So welcome to the CAD with me class in Onshape. So for those of you who are kind of fairly new to Onshape or haven't been using it that much, what is an assembly? An assembly is a component or item that's made up of a number of parts or sub-assemblies that is also able to be assembled or disassembled. So this is an example of an assembly. It has rotating parts, and you can fix different parts to it. Aside from Part Studios, where all the parts can't move at all, an assembly has rotating parts and instances. So if you copied it already, or if you're in the process of copying it, this is what it looks like right here. Like I said before, we're going to basically build this entire system right here into the other side, and we're also going to add screws so we can make it as close to real life building as possible, as if it were going to be assembled in real life. So this is called a clawbot, and what we're going to start doing first is we're going to, like I said, put it on the other side. So what we could do is we could insert either copy or insert all the parts here and then basically reassemble them. Or you could basically make your life much faster and much easier by a feature that Onshape added, I think, recently, maybe a month or so ago. It's called the replicate feature. So you click on it, and then it says instances. So you can click a part or multiple parts, or even an assembly or part of an assembly. So you can drag select to basically highlight the entire section or part or parts that you want to replicate. And then here you have an option, find match edges on face. So as you can see, there's this blue circle highlighted up. That's basically where the mate connection is between this U bracket and this U bracket. So you want to have that same connection except on the other side. So you want an individual edge. And then you click here on the individual edges to match, and then you go over here and you click on your circle. You wait for it to load a little bit. And there you go. You literally just copied over an exact copy of that part of the assembly with all the mates and all the mate connectors included on it. So if you scroll down here, as you can see, it kind of basically replicated all the mates also, so nothing's just falling apart. So now that we have those wheels on, is everybody good with that? All right. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me, and I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to basically put in the back wheels right here. So these are 4-inch Actibotics wheels, I believe. So we're going to insert all the parts. So you can either insert each part and then assemble it into the assembly and keep inserting, or you could insert all the parts that are needed, and then after that you can assemble them in. So let's just say I want to insert a, let's see, what should I insert first? I'll insert a shaft. So I can do, to insert a shaft, you can use our parts library that our team manages. So I'm going to go into my Onshape, and here's our parts library, and this is Servo City because we're using Actibotics type hole pattern. So we're going to go click here, and then we're going to go into shafting and tubing because we're trying to find a shaft, and then shafting, which is down here at the bottom. We're going to use SAE stainless steel shafting, and since we're going to attach it to a wheel, we're going to use 4th-inch stainless steel shafting, D-shafting specifically. So you can choose one of these shafts, or you can make your life easier and save time by choosing a configurable shaft. So for this one, we're going to use a 4-inch shaft. So I can go over here and click 4 inches right here, and it'll automatically generate the 4 inches, and then I can click, and then it'll generate it into my assembly. So as you can see, there's the shaft. It's kind of lagging, but it's there. I hit check, and then there's my shaft. I can also keep assembling more parts. So let's say I want to get a motor. I need a Go Build a motor. So it would be in the Go Build a section, and then you need it in motion, in the motion folder with motors, and then here you have all Go Builda's motors. So I believe it is this one right here. So there's no part studios available because it's a complete assembly of parts. If you imported it as a parts studio, it either wouldn't rotate or all the parts would just not be assembled together. So you need the assembly. With the assembly, the shaft will actually move like it will in real life. So just waiting for that to load up real quick. And there it is. Next, we're going to find 32 millimeter clamping mount. So this motor needs to be clamped onto something, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to find some motor mounts. Where can we find these? We can find these in the Servo City folder right here. And then they are in, let's see, structural components, and clamping mounts. bottom tapped, and then here you go. So that's basically how you would find the motor mount. So as you can see here, the diameter of this motor is a bit narrower than, let's say, a Neverest motor that uses a 37 millimeter. So here we're going to use a 32 millimeter. I'm going to click on the part studio, since this isn't an assembly, it's just a part studio, and I'm going to click twice. So that way I get 2 of them, which is what I need. See if they regenerated. Yep, they did. All right, next we're going to look up is a gear. Sorry for the wait, I'm just trying to find this real quick. So we're going to go back to our Servo City folder, and we're going to go into motion components right here. And then we need rotator motion, since the gears are basically rotating. And then you go to hub mount spur gears are the gears we're going to be using for this claw butt. And then 32 pitch and aluminum. Acetal is basically a plastic type of material, but aluminum is the one you're looking for. For this one, we're going to use a 1/2-inch bore, and then you can choose which ones you want. I'm going to choose this one. It's a 48 tooth, which is the one that we're going to be using. So I'm going to click there, and it's going to give me the gear. So we're going to start assembling now, and then we'll add in more parts later. So just so I can show you guys like how mates work. So in order to start a mate, you can either click right here, one of these mates, or you can hit the M key right there. So let me hover over that. You see it says M. So the M key will give you a bunch of options. So I just hit my
Elam,
M key.
can you repeat the gear? Which gear number it is? Not everybody's caught up.
Which gear number it is? Yeah, sure. Let's see. The part number, or it's 615190.
48 tooth.
Yeah, it's a 48 tooth. Is everyone caught up, or are we good? All right, I'm gonna keep going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach these motor mounts. There are 2 motor mounts, remember, to over here. So I want to attach them around here, which is where my back wheels are going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a fasten mate, or hit the M key again. So I click on a fasten mate, and then here it says select mate connectors. So mate connectors are basically what you can use to connect 2 different instances to each other, whether it's making them rotate or slide, or in this case, making them fasten so that neither of them can move independent of each other. So I'm going to select one of the mate connectors of my motor mount. So you simply hover over where you want it to be. So I want this hole to be lined up with this hole right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this hole right here, and then I'm going to hover my mouse or my cursor over until it selects around this part, kind of almost highlights the entire circle of that hole. I click on it, and then I rotate my view, and then I go over here, and I'm going to click on the hole that I want it to be on. As you can see, it kind of makes a little mate connector symbol, and then there it says fasten. So sometimes it moves just one part of maybe another assembly that you were fastening it on. So if you want to see what it's going to look like in the end before you hit check or X, you can click this button right here, which is solve, and then it'll automatically resolve how the assembly will actually look after you hit the check. But in this case, there is nothing that this motor mount is attached to or is going away from. Let's say you wanted to change it, you can click this drop down menu and you can change it to a different mate, like a Revolute or a cylindrical. I'll be going over the Revolute later. But if you are satisfied with how it is, then you can hit check. 2 more things. There are these options right here that are also in this dialog box. Flip primary axis basically kind of flips it upside down. Flips it the other way around. Sometimes you may need to do that if a part is, let's say, if I had fastened it and it ended up like that, I could just click this button and it goes back to where it was. And this one, reorient secondary axis, is basically you can rotate the part 90 degrees in all directions. When you're satisfied with that, you can either hit this check and you don't make any more mates anymore, or you can hit this check and continue making the same mates. So you can keep making more fasten mates. Since I'm trying to mate the motor mount right here, I'm going to be doing another fasten mate, so I'll save myself time instead of having to click the mate button again. So this time also I'll hover over this mate connector right here and click on it. And then I'll rotate my view and click on this bottom mate connector of the motor mount right here. And then again, they'll be fastened to each other. And that's the way I want them to be fastened. So I'll hit check. And since I'm not done with my fastens, I'll hit that other check to make sure that I'm able to keep doing fastens. So now I have this motor right here that I want to fasten to these motor mounts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click one of these mate connectors. So as you can see, the motor mount, you can click, you have many different mate connectors that the motor has. I want it to be centered on the actual motor mount like it would be in real life. So I click on that mate connector, and I'm going to hover over here and click on this middle mate connector and just wait. And then this is what I was telling you guys about. So as you can see, part of the motor just ripped off and went on here because this is the part you're mating it to. So this is a good example of me using the solve button. So if you clicked on the solve button, it would automatically put the motor there. So if I hadn't clicked the solve button, I may not have noticed that the motor was on backwards. If you haven't noticed, it is backwards. So again, good example of me using the flip primary axis button, and I'm going to click the solve button again. And is that how I want my my motor? Let's see. As you can see, it's still kind of bumping up against the motor. So I'm going to be using what's called an offset. So for fasten mates, you can do an offset. So if you click the checkbox here in offset, you have different offsets for the x-axis, which would make the motor mount go up and down, the motor go up and down, sorry, the y-axis, which would make it go sideways, or in this case, the z-axis, because this is a 3D model, so it has a 3D axis, a 3D coordinate plane, sorry, where you can move this thing forwards or backwards. So I want to move this thing slightly backwards. It depends where it is, but if I moved it, let's say 0.1 inches, it will move it backwards. Sometimes you have to say, let's say negative 0.1 inches to move it the other way if it moves the opposite way that you actually wanted it to move. But once you've done that, you check to see if your motor is coinciding, which I believe it is not. So I think it is okay. Oh, wait, it still is, as you can see right here. So I'll go a little further, 0.2, and then I'm gonna click solve. And as you can see, it's now perfectly aligned. So this is how it would look like in real life. And then you hit the check, since I'm not going to do any more fastens right now. So with that, if you did it correctly, you just fastened 2 motor mounts and a motor to your robot assembly right here. So that's it. And just to let you know, again, like I said before, this motor does turn. If you insert the assembly correctly, it should turn. So when you assemble other parts like gears and wheels to it, the gears and wheels will turn. Next, we want to assemble this gear, but this gear needs a hub for that. So I'm going to look up my D hub. I know I didn't go over this with you guys before, but to insert parts, it's the insert button on your top left or the I key. Insert parts and assemblies. Click insert, and then you not only can you insert parts like from our parts library, but you can insert other assemblies if they are available, like this assembly, but it doesn't have anything on it. So we're not going to insert that one yet. So I'm going to go back to my Onshape, which makes all the part libraries available to you, and then click on my Servo City, motion components, rotary motion, and then we're going to go to hubs now instead of gears. And then you're going to be looking at clamping hubs, and then you're going to go to pattern clamping hubs. Oh, let's see, debore. Yeah, these. So, all right. So once you go to 0.770 pattern clamping hubs for an Actibotics gear, and then you click debore, not debore barrel, because debore barrel hubs looks like this one, and that's not the one you want right now. So debore, and then you click on one of these. See how it says do not use parts? I used to do this before. If I'd clicked on this, it would give me just the screw and the hub, but that's not what I want. What I want is the assembly. So if you're inserting parts into Onshape, and then in the parts studio, it says do not use these parts. Please do not use these parts because it's there for a reason. Don't use the parts. Go to assembly and simply click here, and it'll give you the whole assembly with screwing included. Now that we have that, we're going to do another fasten mate. So we're going to click on the fasten mate or the M key, and then we're going to fasten this D hub to the motor shaft. How we're going to do this, we can click here on the face of this motor shaft, and then also click, say, on this mate connector of the D hub right here. See how it didn't take the screw with it, and also notice how it's backwards. So again, I have to click my flip primary axis to make sure that it's in the right place. Now, as you can see, it's not aligned correctly with the D hub. The shaft isn't aligned correctly. So this is a good example that I would use my reorient secondary axis button and click until I reach the desired result. To click 2 more times, I believe. It's just taking a while to load. Yeah, sorry, my internet's kind of lagging, but let's see. You just have to.
Elam, do you want to
Yeah.
identify where those hubs are again?
Yeah, sure. Give me 1 second. I'll click check on this thing, and it's good now. So as you can see, it's aligned to that. I'll insert another hub to show you. So other documents, and then go to my Onshape, which has our parts library. And then we go over here to Servo City, which is at the bottom. We click there, we go to motion components, 6th one down, rotary motion because we're looking for gears. And then here you have all these options. It's hubs, the second one. And then you're looking for clamping hubs because they have a screw to clamp it with. And then don't choose this option, choose this option for Actibotics, 0.770 pattern clamping hubs. And then you choose debore if you're going to attach it to a shaft. And then you choose one of these, you click on it. You don't use these parts again. And then you just click on here, and then it'll generate another one. And that's basically another walkthrough to how you would insert one of those. So I'm just going to delete that one. To delete a part, you click on it in the tree over here, and then let me just clear selection. Okay, you hover over it, you right click, and then down here it says delete. You can also suppress it if you want it to like kind of temporarily be hidden or deleted, and then it won't affect your assembly unless if it's made it to something else. Now that we have the hub on, I'll demonstrate to you guys that it can actually turn. So as you can see, it turns. So everything that's attached to the hub will also turn. I'm going to create another mate, fasten mate. So now I'm going to fasten my gear to my hub. So I'm going to select a different mate connector. So I'm going to select the bottom of this cylinder right here, click on that as one mate connector, and then I'm going to select the bottom of this gear right here, the bottom of this gear right here. Just wait for it to load, zoom out. Whoops, zoomed out a little too much on accident. Let's see. As you can see, it's on, but it's on the wrong way. Again, so I'm going to click on my reorient or flip primary axis. Click on that. And then now it's oriented properly. And then there you have your gear. And then your gear also turns along with your motor. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to also insert some bearings inside because you're going to need this shaft to go through. We're going to attach the bearings to this hole, I believe, so that way we can attach the wheel and the gear. So we're going to insert bearings and also a wheel. So I'm going to hit my insert. Going to go back again to other documents, my Onshape, and then to our parts library, Servo City. And then next we're going to go into motion components, rotary motion, bearings, and bushings. So you have a lot of different options. The ones you want are ball bearings. Sorry, ball bearings. That's the one you want. You click on that, and then you have so let's see. We were trying to insert.
Go ahead and share your screen, please.
Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Forgot that. All right. Can you see my screen?
We're good.
All right, good. Sorry about that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to build the bottom part of, whoops. So we're going to build the bottom part of this wheel right here. I'll just refresh the browser real quick. My internet's back on, so it shouldn't be my internet now. So that way you guys get kind of a perspective of what we're going to do. I'll just show you what the finished robot looks like real quickly and what part of the robot we're working on. I'll go to my drive base then, if this one won't load. All right, while we're waiting for that, I'll switch back to my other tab. All right, so what we're gonna do is then we're going to insert parts. We're going to insert a hub spacer and 2 bearings and a shaft collar. So we're going to click on our insert button again, or the I key. And then we're going to go to other documents, my Onshape. And then we're going to go to Servo City. We're going to go to motion components, rotary motion. And then we're going to go to bearings and bushings. Next, we're going to go down and we're going to choose ball bearings because those are the ones we want. And then we want flanged ball bearings, not non-flanged because those actually will slide right through the hole in the actibotics bar. And then you have all these flanged bearings. So since we have a 1/4 inch shaft and a 1/2 inch hole, we're gonna want a bearing with an inner diameter of 1/2 inch and an outer diameter of 1 inch. An inner diameter of 1/4 inch and an outer diameter of 1/2 inch. So we're going to go and find that. So it's this one right here, 1/4 inch inner diameter, 1/2 inch outer diameter. Once again, do not use these parts as it is in assembly. Go to assembly and click on here. I'm going to just click twice. And we have our bearings. Next, we're going to go back here and we're just turn that off. Good. All right, so we're going to go back here, rotary motion, hubs, and then hub spacers, and then you have all the different hub spacers. I believe this is, one second, is there a question in the chat? That was part 5. Okay. So now next one we're going to choose is, which part is that one? Hub 595410. Let's see. Well, we're going to choose this one. Part Studios. Actually, sorry about that. We're choosing this one. This one. All right. We have hub, and next, lastly, we're going to get a shaft collar. So, another question in chat. 545380.
I'm transcribing the part numbers for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Did I click the right part? Yeah, I clicked the right part.
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. So next, what I'm going to find is the shaft collars. Shaft collars. Yes, that's what I was looking for. So, Mr. Tovis, I'm sorry. Do you happen to know where that would be? I normally don't look up shaft collars.
Don't know. You have to look up the part number.
Yeah, it's true. All right, I'll give you guys the part number. So in this case where I don't know which part it is, I'm just going to go into my Onshape, and in my Onshape, I can search up the part number of that. So the part number for this part is 643 2 and then capital K 12, and then you hit enter. You look that up. Wait for it to load, and then there you have the shaft collars. Those are actually the shaft collars that I need. So I'm going to go into Part Studios, since there are no assemblies for it, and then go and use that shaft collar and click on it and hit check. And then I have almost all the parts I need. I almost forgot the wheel, sorry. So I'm going to insert again, other documents, my Onshape, and then we go down to Servo City, motion components, 6th one down, rotary motion, and then instead of gears or hubs, we're going to go to wheels, the 3rd one down in rotary motion. And then here you have all the types of wheels. So for example, this one is a 4-inch Omni wheel, which is, I think is the one that we used here, but we're going to be using hub mount wheels. And then here you have all the wheels. So the wheel we're going to be using is this 4-inch heavy duty wheel. If you don't know what hub mount wheels are, they're basically wheels that require a hub to attach them to something. So we're going to use a 4-inch heavy duty wheel. Click on that. And then I'm going to just click on the assembly, since I don't want the individual parts. I want them to be attached together. And then I'll wait for that to load. There we go. And I believe that is all. So now I'm going to hit check. There is also another gear that is going to be attached here, but I'm going to just copy that assembly and put it there. Now, next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, let's start fastening this part of the wheel together. So what's going to be fastened to it is this hub spacer right here, and this gear with the D barrel, the D hub attached to it. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 2 parts, and I'm either going to hit Control C, or I'm just going to do copy 2 items. Once I've done that, I deselect the parts that I copied, and then I hit paste. And if I did it right, yep, these. So that's the cool thing. Also, the copy paste option is kind of replicate, except it doesn't put the mates in a certain position. But you basically copy 2 parts. If they're fastened together, then that mate will also be together. So that's a really helpful feature to know. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a fasten mate from this wheel to the hub spacer. Where is it? Okay, right here. So I'm going to click on my fasten mate, or the M key. If you hit the M key, you're gonna have to look for it, I think. No, actually, no, it's default fasten. If you hit the M key, it's gonna be default fasten, and then you just click the drop down to change where you which mate you want. So I'm going to click here. I'm just going to click on this surface right here, and as you can see, when I hovered over that surface, it gave me that mate connector, which is the center. You can also choose the edge, or you can choose one of the holes, but I want the center hole. Next, what I'm going to do is also do the same thing. I can hover over my wheel, and then as you can see, it's a center mate connector. I click on it, and again, as you can see, this spacer is literally inside the wheel. So I'm going to click my flip primary axis button, and then it is where it should be. Hit check. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my gear directly to the spacer. So I'm going to hover over here and click on the middle mate connector. So as you can see now, it's starting to highlight the holes, but that's not what I want. I want that center mate connector, as you can tell. So I click there. It's highlighted that gear. I'm going to hover over here and click the center also. And then as you can tell, that gear is kind of inside out, which is not what I want. I'm going to flip my primary axis. And also, as you can tell, again, this hub did not go along with the wheel, so I can click my solve button to see if it's correct, and it is. So I'm going to hit check. And then this is your wheel assembly right here. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to add in our bearings. So if you're going to add in a shaft through any Actibiotics hole, it would be best recommended to use a bearing, so that way it runs smoothly. So in real life, how this bearing would act in reference to this Actibiotics bar would be that it would be moving. So introducing the revolute mate. So the revolute mate right next to the fasten mate. So you click on that. And then here's a revolute mate. So revolute mate means that a part is able to rotate freely. It stays in its relative area, but it's able to rotate, kind of like a wheel rotating on an axis. The wheel doesn't move front and back, but it rotates. So that's basically what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to click on this mate connector right here, and then it selects that mate connector. And then I'm also going to click on this mate connector right here because I want it to line up. As you can see, it left this piece behind, but took this piece with it. And is that lined up? Yes, that is the way I want it to be lined up. So I hit check. I'm gonna hit check here just to show you guys. So when you click here, it's kind of hard to see, but this piece can actually rotate. You can see it better with this gear per se. So this is a revolute mate on the shaft of the motor, but this is what a revolute mate does. See, it's fixed, but it's able to rotate on its fixed axis right here like this. Next, we're going to do is we're going to attach the other bearing. So we can either do a replicate mate that I showed you before, or we can simply just do another revolute mate. So I'll just do another revolute mate to show you guys if you guys were confused about how to do a revolute mate. So revolute mate, you select your mate connectors. Again, I'm going to select this mate connector right here. And then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to the other side of my Actibiotics bar, and then go here, and then which I think I selected the right one. Click here, and then is it on the right way? Let's see. It is on the right way. So that's the way I want it. So I'm just going to hit check on that. If you're bothered because you're trying to, let's say, put this bearing here and this wheel per se got in your way, you can simply drag select whatever parts you would like. And then once they're selected, you can right click and hit hide. And once you do that, now it just displays the parts or the part of the assembly that you were working on mating. So now that you have these two bearings here, okay, I have made a mistake. It appears that I have mated the wrong one I've put the wrong bearing in the wrong hole. So this is an example that you can also edit mates in general. You can edit mates in general and change the mate connectors. So I'm going to right click here and edit. And then I click on edit, wait for it to load. And as you can see, it brings me back to the dialog box I had before. So in order to change the mate connector, you can hover over it. So right here, you see it displays in yellow the mate connector of the bearing. And if I go down here, displays the make connector of the aluminum bar. I want to change the make connector of the aluminum bar, so I simply click check, and there we go. The bearing is no longer mated to the aluminum bar, as you can tell. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it and then click here, and now it's mated properly. Let's see. All right, so yeah, now it's mated properly, sorry. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my shaft to the bearings. So I'm going to do this with a revolute mate, because technically in real life, a shaft probably should move freely along a bearing. Sometimes it doesn't if the bearing is too tight for the shaft, but theoretically it should move as a revolute. So I'm going to click again, revolute mate, and then I'm going to select the top mate connector right here. Click here, and then I'm going to select the mate connector of this bearing right here, the inner mate connector this time. Going to select it right here. And then the shaft is going the wrong way, so I'm going to hit my flip axis button, and now it's going the right way. Since I need to attach a hub attached to a wheel on here, this is not going to work like this. So like fastens, revolutes have offsets, except they only have one offset, which is in the z-axis, which is basically it moving back and forth. So let's just see, I'm gonna try 0.1, let's see what that does. So as you can see, it moved my axle backwards, which is not what I want. I want it to be going the other way. So that is an indicator that I should always put a negative when moving it forward. So let's say I want negative 0.5. And then it moves at negative 0.5. But I'm gonna put it -1, so that way my wheel does not bump into the actual gear. So then I can hit check, and that's how it is going to be. Next, I'm going to mate this D-hub to this shaft with a fasten mate. So what I'm going to do is, since I need a mate connector of the D shaft, actually I can reach it here, but let's say you needed one of those holes that you couldn't reach, simply hide the parts. Just wait for it to load. Yeah, since this was two different parts, it still shows the ring, but that's an example that you can hide the different parts that you don't want seen, and then I'll demonstrate to you in a moment how to re-show all those parts. So now that I want this mate connector right here, I'm going to click on my fasten, and then I'm going to select this mate connector right here, not the middle one, this edge right here. And then I'm also going to select the edge of this shaft right here. Wait for it to process that. Now that that hub is attached to the shaft, I'm going to rotate it to make sure that it is all right. Okay, so as you can see here, since I can only rotate this in 90 degrees, what I need to do is make sure that this flat part of the D-hub is also attached to the flat part of the shaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete both of my mate connectors, which gives me an error, yes, but I'm going to redo those mates. Quick thing, if your fastens or any of your mates are in red, or if your assembly shows a red exclamation mark, in most cases it does, but if it shows red, then that's proof that there's an error. So if anything is in red, automatically go check that out, because either there are no mate connectors, mate needs two mate connectors, or there's other types of errors. So just check any red mates or parts. So now I'm going to click the edge. This is a new mate connector right here. So I'm going to click the edge of this shaft right here. And next I'm going to click the edge of this D-hub. Boom, right there. Wait for it to load. Okay. I'm going to reorient my secondary axis, and then I'm going to flip my primary axis. And then since I can't really put this back here, I'm going to change the actual mate connector that I just did, and I'm going to change it to this one right here in the front. And now it's completely fastened, and it's fastened the correct way. So I can hit check, and in order to show all my entire robot, so this is just the drive base. If I wanted to show the entire robot, all I do is click show all instances. Do not click show all, or you get a mess of it showing all the mate connectors. These kind of like circles with red, green, and blue lines, they are mate connectors. So if you hit show all, it'll show all the different mate connectors of the actual robot and all the mates that you did. So you don't want that. You just want to show all the parts. So click show all instances, and it'll show you your entire robot or your entire assembly, whichever it is. So as you can see, the gears can almost line up. Let's see. They should, okay, so the gear, this needs to be moved back a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an offset, a fastened offset. Once I do that, I'm going to talk to you guys about naming your mates. So I'm going to offset this a little bit so that way it's kind of lined up with this gear. So I want it to move back and forth along the, I believe, the x-axis. So I'm going to make this, let's see, 0.1, see what that does. That's the correct where I wanted to go. So let's do 0.3, see where that lands us, 0.4. And since I can't see where my gear is, I'm just going to simply click the solve button. And there you go. As you can see, it's meshed together. But as you can also see, unfortunately, the wheel is in the way. So that's not really what you want, right? So you have to basically back off this part. So there's a reason why there was a hub spacer right here. So that way this problem wouldn't happen. But in order to fix this, just simply leave it like this, the way it is, and change the offset for this. So as you can tell, I have a bunch of fastens and revolutes. So I need to find this one right here, right? But it's going to be kind of hard to find. So what I've had a lot of trouble doing, and I know I should do better at, is renaming my mates. So any mate that you do, you should rename it. So for example, this one, I'm going to click rename. You can automatically do it when you create the mate. I'm going to name this motor mount to U bracket, because that way somebody who's looking at this document or this assembly can look and see, oh, that's what that mate does and what that mate is. Also, if I can just copy this, since I have two motor mounts, I can literally do the same thing. So this is the same second one, and rename. Control V, motor mount to U bracket, like that. And then you should make that a habit to rename your your mates, not just because of organization, but purposes, but that way so somebody else who is looking at this assembly can tell which mate is which. So this is the mate that connects the shaft to the hub. So I'm going to rename this motor shaft, not shaft, motor shaft to hub. I'm going to offset this so that way it barely touches the wheel. So either double click or right click edit, and then offset. I want it on my Z axis, so it's probably going to be a -1. Let's see, wrong way, so it's that way. So I'm going to just move it back a little bit, see how it does. Sometimes you have to play with these. Other times you can just measure the distances and see which is the best. So I'm almost out, maybe 0.1 more inches more. Sorry, 0.1 more inches more, not just 0.1 inch, if it'll load. .3 inches, that's what I want. And then I'm going to click the solve button. and the gear is completely out, and it's still barely, yeah, the gear is completely out, and that's what you want. So as you noticed, I have made an error right here. This whole assembly is supposed to be right here. So what I can do is I can just do a replicate and just delete the other parts instead of having to do this all over again. So I can click on all my parts. 5-minute warning, okay. So I can click on all my parts. I'm almost done with this, Mr. Tobis. This is literally the end. So I can click on all my parts right here. And then once they are all selected, I can hit Control C or just copy all the instances. So copy 7 items. Just wait for Onshape to process that. And then I'm going to just click delete. So I'm just going to see if I can delete these. No, I can't. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just delete that later. Just wait for it to load. All right. So now I'm going to paste this in, paste 7 items. So as you can see, it literally pasted my entire assembly. So now I can individually delete all of these. Delete. Let's see if there's a way I can delete. Delete, you can also delete that way. So delete that. Don't need you anymore. Delete that. And that's a very simple way of, instead of having to basically delete all your mates, you can just literally just copy over and delete those. All right. So now all you have to do is simply do really one mate, which is going to be one Revolute mate. So click over here and over here and click on this mate and then click on that mate right here. And then see there, solve that, solve full assembly, just wait for it to solve, check. Okay, so this bearing didn't go through. Let's see if this one's attached. Okay, it's not attached, but I'll just attach this real quick and then I'll end this. Apparently the mates didn't all go through. So I'll just make this again. Normally, it's probably because I didn't select all the actual parts, but generally they normally do go through. So Revolute and then 0.5, negative 0.5. And then as you can see, the gear's almost meshed, but that's not really what you want. All right. Well, actually, I think this is a good stopping point. Is that a good stopping point, Mr. Tovis? Or do I have a few more minutes to fix this?
Go ahead and get it fixed. Leave everybody with a good, good part.
All right, actually, yeah, sure. All right, so I'll just go back into my Revolute. And then I'll fix this offset. So as I remember, it was -1, actually not -0.5. And then I'm going to attach the hub spacer, where is it? Directly onto my wheel, which apparently wasn't on, so I'm going to have to reinsert my hub spacer real quick. So my Onshape, Servo City, and then structural, nope, not structural, motion components, rotary motion, hubs, and then you want hub spacers, and then you want this one, 0.375 inches. Click on that, and then wait for it to generate. Yeah, I didn't click on it. For it to generate now, and there it is generated, and click my check. I'm going to really quickly fasten these together. Not that. Fastened. Fasten it to this gear. That's how I want it. And then I'm going to fasten my hub to my wheel like it was before. So I'm going to click in the middle right here. Click there. And then click in the middle of my spacer. And now my wheel is attached like the way it should be. And last but totally not least, I'm going to attach my bearing properly. So I'm going to make a revolute mate. Attach it here, choose the correct mate connector and put it inside the correct hole, which is this hole right here. Wrong mate connector. Remember, I gotta click here. And that's the right mate connector. All right, so actually this is a good stopping point right here. So I just assembled part of the wheel. So maybe in the next class, whoever's teaching that, if it's me or Tom, will be able to replicate that into the other side. All right, thank you guys for listening to this class, and I hope we can do that later. Keep going with the class in the coming weeks. Thank you.